People think that life just happened, random. It can't be random. At the age of 14, I experienced something that changed my life itself.
You sat down to meditate and you left your body for 3 days.
I was in the state of Samadhi.
And what was your experience as you were... Really?
Before that, I heard about Mahavatar Babaji. He bent down, looked in my eyes. He revealed that all these time, it was only him. Everybody is searching for one thing, which is happiness. We think that something will make us happy. There is a part of us which is still not satisfied. And this is when your soul itself have that deep longing. I want to know. Every day of your life, there's a golden moment. You have to make here your paradise. If you have not made here your paradise, what paradise are you aiming for? In everything that we do, we serve the divine. We find God in everything. We are not separate from God. Wherever we are, the divine is with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Know Thyself Podcast. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with the founder of Bhakti Marga, an individual who is a spiritual teacher and leader, Paramahamsa Vishwananda. Pleasure to have you here. Yeah. Your mission is to open the heart of humanity.
Yeah.
I would love to dive into your story, how you originated here. But where I first want to start off is, I believe, and I've come to my understanding, that there is a deeper fundamental longing and searching within the mind and heart of every human being that we label as often career, relationship, these different manifestations in the material world. So I just want to ask you, what do you feel that we are fundamentally searching for? What is the deeper longing?
Actually, everybody is searching for one thing, which is happiness. And happiness have different level. Some look for happiness into the material world. Some look at it in relationship. Some look for happiness in spirituality. So fundamentally, everybody is searching for to be happy. And there were like different kind of happiness, different ways to be happy.
Why does it seem to elude us so much? Why are so many people not happy?
Because we want things too quick. We look for happiness, but we want it very quickly. And this is we are very impatient with ourselves and with everything else. That's why even when we search for happiness, we don't achieve that happiness.
When you say the word happiness, what do you mean by that? Because I think a lot of people have different perceptions of what they think happiness means.
It's true. You see, we look for happiness. Very often, we think that something will make us happy. But along the road, we find out that there's no happiness into it. Our happiness disappeared. With time, now, we like to have something wonderful. Yes, we enjoy it. And after sometimes that happiness fade away. So for me personally, when I'm talking about happiness, I'm talking about happiness, something which carries on. Something that doesn't fade away with time or with, let's say you're enjoying something and then it fade away like that. No.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people get joy, like true happiness and joy mixed with pleasure. Like they mix the two, because a lot of people say, well, a car makes me happy, or, a relationship.
That's pleasure, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're speaking to the deeper fundamental, there's like a fulfillment, there's like an impermanent.
Satisfaction. You have that deep satisfaction. Because you see, we may do so many things, but yet there is a part of us which is still not satisfied. And that is when that which is not satisfied gets satisfied. That's what I call real happiness.
Yeah, it feels there's a fundamental presupposition that we're trying to look for something infinite within the finite.
Well, the infinite is also in the finite. They are not separate. Because very often when we, especially on the spiritual path, we try to find that infinite separate from the finite, which is they are not separate.
Yeah.
They are together.
So what have you found as what really brings and unlocks that true, deep happiness which lasts, where does one look for that in order for it to last?
Actually, that happiness, very often we try to, like I said earlier, we try to find it elsewhere. But in reality, it's not elsewhere. It is in ourselves and in things that we do. With which attitude we do things, that also bring that happiness out.
So this is the Know Thyself podcast, and we love to dive into exploring what is the true nature of self, who am I, what is our purpose here, how can we be most effective, stewards to serve the planet. And I think it's very much in alignment with your mission of opening the hearts of humanity.
Actually, this is a main question about spirituality, about knowing thyself.
Yeah. So what do you feel it means to really become self-actualized?
Well, for psychology, it's every moment, whatever we do it with a certain consciousness, awareness that we are divine, firstly. And that divinity can be also spread in everything that we do. So when we realize that, because that's what brings, for me personally, what I'm talking about is, what brings that happiness is when we are connected with the source of everything. And that when you actualize it, and in your daily life itself, whatever you're doing, you do it with a certain awareness of, yes, that is also divine. So it's not separate.
It's a powerful distinction to use the word self-realization, because you're coming to discover something that's already there. Like you said, the connection with the divine, you're realizing you already always have been, but you come to see something that always has been.
Yeah, but the mind separate, no? If, like we are talking right now, yes, there is a certain realization, but you know about it. But there is many people who know about it, but that didn't realize it. Knowing and realizing is two different things. When you realize something, that knowing disappeared. So it's like it said that when you are small, you grow up, the youth disappeared, make way to different stages of your life, So you were young, you become youth, then from youth you become old age and so on. But all the experience of this, they stay. But you have transcend them. So like that also. So throughout life, when whatever you have experienced, you are transcending it.
I feel so much of our pain and suffering comes from our perceptions with the mind about the world and our problems and things. And you speak very often about the shift from the mind to the heart. And so I'd just love for you to share a little bit more about why that's such a powerful shift in one's life and how to realize that.
You see, we have done everything with the mind, and we know very well, we're expert in it. But whatever we do with our mind, we are driven by the mind, doesn't lead us to true happiness, doesn't lead us to true contentment. So there must be something else that beyond that, why some people are truly happy, no matter what happened in their life, they're still, even if their life goes upside down, there's happiness inside of them. So personally, I think that is the way, where the mind have shift, have descent into the heart itself. Then the heart doesn't stay like that. When we are talking about the heart, we're not talking about the physical heart, we're talking about the spiritual heart, which keep opening. This is where love comes. What is the nature of love? Very often people ask, what is the nature of love? What is love? Because this is something which is very mysterious. Everybody love, everybody talk about love, but what is that love? Of course, religion would tell you, yes, it is, love is God. That's it, point, finish. But it can't just be that. There's more to love. That's why we see love is identified to God in a certain way, because it transcends everything. It is unlimited.
When I come in contact with individuals who I feel live in their heart, there is a sense of freedom. It's like the saying of being in the world, but not of it. You're not attached to this external circumstance.
Actually, you see, when it is with the mind, there's a lot of judgment, criticism, and so on. Whenever you come to somebody which is very mind-oriented, we think that, yes, that person knows everything. So you close yourself. You don't open up yourself because you will be criticized. That person will judge you. That, yes, they will see you in a different negative way. So you can't open up your heart to that person. But when you come to somebody which heart is open, you're free. You let it flow. There's an acceptance also there. There's without judgment. And there is this flow of love. It is just flowing naturally.
So I think everybody listening has this experience probably daily where they feel judgments, however big or small, whether labeling something as good, as bad, having attachment to certain circumstances, wanting to go out of their way. It's a natural process of the mind. How do we really sink in deeper into the heart so we can start to hold this and not start to think so dualistically?
Well, dualistically is from the mind. We have a mind, and whatever we do into the world, we do it with the mind. Naturally, there is good, there is bad, but we should not attach to it. This is what makes the difference, is that when we start identifying to the judgment, whether it is good or not good, both is judgment. So when the moment our mind starts attaching itself to that often I say, if you judge something is good, automatically you accept the bad. Whether you say it or not, you're accepting it. It is there. So to come to the point of the heart itself, it's not that you don't care, but you come to a point of yes, it is fine how it is. Something goes right in your way, it is fine. Something doesn't go the way you want, it's also fine. So you can find that both can lead you somewhere. There's a beautiful story. One master and his disciple, they used to go on retreat. And so 6 months they will spend in their hut, and 6 months they will spend in the forest. So on the way back, when they were returning to their hut after being in the forest, they saw the hut, half of the hut was broken. The statue was gone. So the disciples started complaining, saying, oh, sad, we have been meditating in the forest, we have been doing spiritual practice. How unfair from God to look at our hut. He cannot protect our hut. When he looked at the master was on the floor, bowing down, say, thank you, God. You have, you knew that we have not bathed for 6 months. We have not. I was wondering how this will be. Because of the smell, all this. So you have make it so open now, so that there's a natural AC.
Yeah.
So for sure the disciple must be thinking, something must go wrong with the master during the last retreat. So as they went in, it was sleeping and they're looking up, all the stars. So all of a sudden start forecast, rain start falling. Again, the master was on his knees. Thank you, God, you know better. So we didn't take shower, you send the shower down. So very grateful about it. So the disciple looked and said, what's wrong with you, master? It was broken. You say thank you for that. And now it's raining. We are completely wet. You even say thank you for that. And then the master said one thing. Listen, I don't know if God really exists. I have never seen him. I don't know if he ever listened. But one thing that have brought me and kept me strong onto the path is my attitude towards life. I take it in a positive way. And I find it wonderful, when we learn to take things in a positive way in our life. We are more relaxed. We are not need to, stress ourselves, because stress doesn't solve the problem. It makes the problem worse. But sadly, we see the world. When there's a problem, people attach themselves mostly to their problem. They meditate upon the problem, and the problem get bigger.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so much of our joy or suffering, I feel like, as you're mentioning, is our attitude, our perception about whatever is happening. And one of the Vedanta philosophies, which is Vivishta Advaita, which is more the lineage I believe that you studied, I would love for you to share a little bit about what that is in that perspective, so we can dive into that understanding.
Vashishta Advaita actually come from Sri Ramanujacharya, but it's compared to other, form of Advaitism, And Vashishta Advaita is that we are not separate, from God. So wherever we are, the divine is with us. Because others say, okay, the formless aspect, Advaitic, the formless aspect, we are separate. Everything is God. Vashishta Advaita said, no, we are part of Him. And of course, we have Dvaita Advaita also, which is said, no. Everything is complete separation. So one say there's no separation, part and complete separation. So Vashishta Advaita, we find that in everything that we do, we serve the divine. We find God in everything. He's not separated from us. We are part of Him.
I think more and more people are getting familiarized with non-dualism and Advaita teachings, which is amazing. But the distinction with Vivishta Advaita is that there's some distinctions in my understanding. Could you clarify a little bit what those are?
This actually is a very, very long dispute.
Okay.
For centuries, actually, they all have been fighting with each another between the different school of philosophy, because the Advaita philosophy and the Vashishta Advaita, and we are right, you are wrong, and actually nowadays it's different, Even if we go deeper into the philosophy point of view, how does it profit for people in nowadays society? So we can talk at length about Advaitism and Vashishta Advaita. So the difference is that from Shankara, who portrayed, who his philosophy was that everything is Brahman. Everything is only Brahman, nothing. You don't exist. Well, Vashishta Advaita said, no, everything is Brahman, but you are also part of it. So you see the difference between the two. The moment you put something that it is, you are part of it. In that part, there is a distinction between the two. Even if God pervades everything, but yet the nature of relating is different. How we relate to the divine, how we relate to people. Otherwise, we just say, yes, everything is God, and that's it. It's easy going, So this is actually, in short, the difference about it.
So I'd like to explore some of the philosophical understanding, but also as a Satguru, it's more so your mystical experience and understanding and perception of life, right? So I would love to ask you from your own personal experience some maybe more existential questions about life and reality. Not that we haven't already been, but some of these questions of like, where did we come from before we were born, and where do we go after we die? In your experience, what is the nature of those?
My experience, you see, look, our journey, which our soul have journeyed, it's a multitude of realities. It's not just, life doesn't just happen from one day to the other, like people think about, very often, especially in the West, people think that life just happened random. It can't be random. So it's a journey. Why some people come on the spiritual path, some people are not, and it's all far away. You don't even know when, if they will even reach there. So this is a journey of life itself, so where we come from. There's a mystery of it. So in my belief, we ever exist. We exist in the cosmic form of God. We are never separate from Him. So when we had our individual personality, when God wanted us to, say, go and experience the world, because it's His creation, go and experience. So we came into existence. So of course the soul have journeyed into many part, like in the Shastra, in the scripture said 8.4 million species until you come to the point of having a human body. So this human form is not just random. It's sacred. So that's why honoring that is also important. So after journey that, how many times you have come to in a human form? Many times. So it didn't just, spirituality just didn't happen randomly, just appeared. I'll say now I'm spiritual because everybody is spiritual. The herd mentality. No, it doesn't happen like that, because something have to awake inside of you. And this is when your Atma, your soul itself, have that deep longing. I want to know. Because life can't be random. Very often I speak with people they have this question since they were small, but nobody was there to answer the question. Because when we look at the world itself, they will not give you such an answer about it. So we come from a very long journey. And that's what have bring us into that spiritual. That's why we have this deep longing for more, who will give us that grace to realize that. That we call Kriya. We call it grace. So that's why when in our belief we said that when you have that deep longing, the soul sends a message to the universe, to God, and God sent you where you have to be. So it's level, this step by step, you will be carry on until you come to that point of complete realization of who you are truly. You have a glimpse of who you are.
Yeah.
And having a glimpse of who you are, it doesn't finish there. Because very often people say, okay, yes, I'm self-realized, that's it. No, self-realized is just one step of it. We have to come to a point of God realization. And that we can't just say, yes, it by our own effort. We can try our best and do our sadhana, do our spiritual practices, do whatever we do in a positive way. Put all the right things in our life. But there's one more step, which come naturally. We become a magnet to attract that grace.
So you spoke to essentially how our origins is from this cosmic consciousness, individuating, experiencing potentially millions of different species to where we realize the sacredness of this human birth. Where do you feel that we are going? The moment of self-realization, what is the path of what's after this human life? Like, where are we going to as a spirit soul?
This is a question which everybody asks. But actually, whoever have reached to that part, they have not come back to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
But we know it through experience, which great sages and saints have experienced. Because once we have entered into that blissful state of love, you have always compassion for others. The great sages and saints, they choose to be here, because very often we hear, oh yes, let us be free. But freedom is also being here. You can be here and be liberated. You don't need to die and be in the other side to be liberated. So the sages and the saints, they choose to come and help humanity. So this is one thing which is very important.
What is Vaikuntha?
For me,
Yes.
Vaikuntha is whenever you experience a joy and happiness, like I said, that joy and that happiness, which is with God at all time. That is Vaikuntha. So it's not that you have to reach to a place once you die, then you go to the loka of Mahavishnu, that we call Vaikuntha. For me personally, it's here. You have to make here Vaikuntha firstly. You have to make here your paradise. If you have not made here your paradise, what paradise are you aiming for? This is the thing. People have a aim. Yes, once I finish life here, I die, then I will go to some places. It's a hope, yes, but it's not like this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make Vaikuntha here. Your life have to become that paradise itself. That open up all the way.
So Vaikuntha is, could it be perceived as like pure light, or a reference? You're saying like kind of paradise, and you get glimpses of it. It's both the place we're going to and the place we can have experience of here.
Yes, it is here itself.
Yeah.
It's not a place that. Well, there is for sure a place also after you depart from here where the great souls reach. When you have finished here your dharma, your duty here. Of course, there's a place that, no, you don't come back here. But to reach to that place, you have to make it here personally.
Can I ask you a few questions about your own personal path and journey to this point?
Yeah, sure.
So you're very, I guess, distinguished from most people's path, where you came into this life very much so with the experience of the connection to the divine. Whereas sometimes, oftentimes it kind of gets beat into people through a lot of suffering. And so could you share about what it was like as an early boy, the experience you had at 5, and we could start from there?
So my experience, since I was small, what my grandparents told me, my mom and my grandma, since I started crawling, they will never find me everywhere. They will find me only in the prayer room. So that was where they will always look for me first. So my experience, what I remember from, like you said, 5 years old, something happened. I grew up in Mauritius, and
which is, where is that?
Mauritius.
East Africa?
Yes, near Madagascar, a small island in the middle of Indian Ocean.
Okay.
And it's true, actually. Many people here in America don't know where Mauritius is.
Yes.
Very often when I pass the passport control, they ask, where is that? I have to explain.
Yeah.
So, grew up when I was small, 5 years old, playing with all the kids in the surrounding, because we lived together. So one day I was just sitting under one tree. Actually, it's a poisonous tree. And I was eating the seeds of these seed from which were falling, and it tastes like peanuts. So for me, it was peanuts. I was eating it, and after some times, I lost conscious, and of course, I was foaming in the mouth, and the other kids rushed to my parents and told them, and my mom and my dad came, took me to the hospital, and of course, the doctor did what they have to do. So I'm here still. And something happened that after all this. I was in the children ward because it was many beds and the children were there. There was this man outside the hospital window with long hair, and he was giving sweets to all the children. So everybody was attracted to him. I also went to him, and I asked him one question. He was giving sweets, and I asked him one question: why are you here? I don't know. Don't ask me why I asked this question. I'm still thinking about why did I ask this question. But it's true. I asked him, "Why are you here?" But in my language.
Yeah.
And looking at me, he said, "I'm here for all of the children, but for you especially." It didn't make any sense for me. So he held my hand. He put one sweet and 1 rupee, Mercian rupee. And at that time, 1 rupee, which is 100 cents, was a lot of money for small kids, So you get lots of sweets and lots of, because one sweet was 1 cent, you get a sweet. So the mind was so attached to that. Wow, nice. So then he asked me, "Do you know who you are?" I didn't answer because it didn't make any. He didn't has a echo to me, So I carry on, very happy with the sweet and the rupee. So then he said to me, without turning, with his finger pointing behind him, said, "Do you see the light?" I was looking, there was a hill. I was looking, which light is he talking about? There's no light. I look at the hill, look at the trees, nothing. I said, "No, I don't see any light." He bent down, looked in my eyes, and said, "Look properly." So the second time when I looked, there was a ball of light, like the sun, surrounded with a disc of light. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And then he said to me, well, I heard a voice, his voice, said, "That's you." How long this vision have lasted, I have no clue. After some time, when I came back to myself, he said, "I have to go. Your mom and auntie is coming." He just lifted his hand and disappeared. Eventually, my mom and my auntie came, and I was very excited to tell the story. And of course, for them, they think that it's children's stories. I said, "Okay, it's an uncle." In the island, there everybody's uncle, auntie. That is a respect that we have. So just to finish with that, that was the uncle. So that is the first what I remember. From my master. Mm-hmm. Then later on, again, I was in my tooth was paining, so my mom brought me to the dentist, and the dentist needed to remove the tooth. So when he put the injection, I bit his finger. And I would not let go. Because it was hurting me, and I would say, "No, I don't want him to remove my tooth." So I bit the finger, and it was not. And my mom got really angry. He gave me a good slap and said, the dentist was very nice. Said, No, don't beat him. It's fine. My mom was super angry and said, "You go out." So I was out crying. And when I came out on the terrace, there was the same man was standing. And he said, "You've been naughty." And I said, "Yeah, I bit the finger of the dentist because I don't want him to remove my tooth." And he was smiling. At that moment, my mom came just dragged me. And I was crying. And I said, Mom, look, this is the same uncle. And when I looked at it, nobody was there. So like that, he was always there. So I thought, this is normal. And at the age of 14 and a half, actually, I experienced something that changed my life itself. At the age of 14, one night, it was 21st of April, I think 1992. You see, my parents believed, but just like everybody, they will just not very spiritual people. They will go to the temple twice a year for 1st of January and Shivaratri, the great night of Shiva. And that's it. But for me, like I said, I was always attracted towards spirituality. So I used to collect all the little pictures of the gods, Krishna, Shiva, and I would put them. I was not allowed to put it on the wall. So they gave me a cupboard. It was inside the cupboard closed. So every night I would do my little prayer with the incense and then close it again for my mom not to get angry. So that night, I wake up because there was light coming out from the cupboard. I got so scared because I said, "Oh, it's burning." So I already see the reaction of my mom and my parents. Okay, so I rush and open the cupboard. When I opened, there was a picture of a saint, Sai Baba of Shirdi. But you have heard about it. All around him, there was a speck of light emanating from that picture. So when I opened it, it was a relief. At the same time, a calmness, inside of me. And it was peaceful. So when this happened, it dimmed again. I closed the cupboard and I went to sleep. So next morning, I thought it was just a dream, finished. Nothing ever happened. I was in college at that time. So I went to college. And when I came back, my mom was sitting outside crying. I asked her, "What's wrong with you? Why are you sitting and crying outside? Whether something have happened, your mom died." Well, your mom already dead, so no problem. Maybe something happened to my dad or to her family. I said, no, go inside. So I went inside the house, and on the wall and all the other things, there was some manifestation of ash. Vibhuti, we call it, holy ash. So it was just there. So I said, okay, it was not much actually, just speck. And my mom was crying, said, "Oh, maybe you should remove these things, So we clean everything. So this is a mistake that we did, actually. The more we clean, it became more start coming out. All more things start manifesting. And so that is, from that on, my spiritual journey started, So like that, later on, I had more vision of that same person. And later, much later in 2008, he revealed to me that it was actually him all this time, So then I didn't even know who he was, So that then 2008. No, before that I knew about, and I heard about Mahavatar Babaji, So it was similar,
Yeah.
So then 2008, he revealed that all these time, it was only him.
So fascinating. Can you share what is the reality of who Babaji is and was? In your experience, I think people maybe have been familiarized or heard of him first through Paramahamsa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi, and they hear about this great being. And I would just love for you to share, what do you feel who he was and is?
Actually, look, for me personally, I think that Mahavatar Babaji is a partial manifestation of Lord Krishna. So when Lord Krishna disappeared, and he emanated that aspect of to remind humanity, to keep a balance into this world, So he manifests into Mahavatar Babaji, and why he's here. He's a teacher for all the other teachers. He come as a reminder. Like he reminded me when I was small of showing that light, saying, that's you. Even if that time didn't give me that deep realization of, yes, that is who I am. But it's a reminder of that.
Mm-hmm. How do you know what is true, a real experience of a connection with like a non-physical being versus the potential? Because the mind plays all these deception,
yes, of course,
perception, distortion.
The mind creates a lot of tricks, and the mind creates a lot of vision. Because I have met many people who, how it is on the spiritual path. People always they think that they are very special, and then when you see that test or problems start having into their life, you see how they are really, whether they are really spiritual or not. That I have met also many people. So how do you know that you are really experiencing something genuinely or not? There's no doubt into it. Because very often you will notice that people who also experience, but it is from the mind, they need validation from others. They need to ask, and they need to they want you to confirm that what they are experiencing is right. So the validation, not from the Sadguru, not from their master, but they want other people to acknowledge their point of view. So that is not right. Then it is their own delusion. Because if it is genuine, you will not even want to go around and, put a display of it. Yeah. Because you are weak, you have that doubt inside of you. That's why there's a display and validation of others.
I also think there's no way externally for me or somebody listening to validate the authenticity of somebody else's personal experience.
No, each person will have their own experience.
Right.
See, my experience will be my experience. It can't be your experience. Then each people will have their own unique experience.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of the spiritual path.
I think it's a more important thing to look at how someone is living their life as a result of whatever they have experienced or believe, and the joy that they're spreading and the love that they're helping unlock in people's hearts. And like that to me is the true testament to, I guess, somebody's.
Yes, this is also a very good point, because when you see somebody which their life itself is miserable, and tell them that, okay, yes, they are miserable themselves, what joy would they give to others? It can't be.
Yeah.
That's why we say, only those who are liberated can liberate somebody else. If you have something, then you can give. If you don't have something, you can't give.
So at 14, there was a distinct moment, whether you call it Samadhi or through that experience.
Yes, actually, something happened. One of my aunties said to sit and meditate. So I said, okay, fine, let's sit and meditate. It was something, I say, okay, I've never did it before, so let's try. So my auntie tried to explain to how to do it. So we sat down, everybody at, it was 8 o'clock in the evening. We sit down and meditate, So when we were in meditation, but the point is that at that moment when I sat down and meditate, something happened to me. So I left. And I was not back for 3 days.
So you sat down to meditate and you felt like you left your body
Yeah.
for 3 days.
For 3 days, I was in this state of Samadhi.
And your family, your auntie, like
And I was sitting and crying. Because you see, the heart was still beating very faintly, and the people were there. It was a big commotion, you know.
So, in their experience, your eyes were closed. Were you still seated, like sitting like this, or were you laying down?
I think I was, well, I started by sitting down.
Yeah.
I think they took me and put me there.
Yeah.
So for 3 days, I was not there.
And what was your experience as you were?
That I've never said to anybody, actually.
Really?
Actually, during that experience, I was in a different place. It was like a long traveling. And I don't know whether you because I never say that to
I mean, if you're open to sharing, I'm just so curious about that state and what your consciousness goes through and what it is experiencing, you know?
It was not a mind process, you see. It's not that, of course, after I came back, I could remember everything. I still remember everything. I still, right now when I'm talking to you, can still feel everything inside of me right now, you know? And it was, I was traveling, you know, to different spheres and different realities, and meeting different beings also.
I think people are starting to understand more and more how our consciousness might potentially not be bound by time and space. And if you're able to get into deep brainwave states or deep moments of meditation like this, I personally have heard many experiences where people leave their body and have different experiences around. So it was your experience that you were like traveling to different worlds, realities, experiencing, communicating with other beings. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share any more? Are you open to a little bit?
No.
So from that moment and that experience forward, you had a different devotion to the path that you wanted to live in this life.
Like I said to you, from small, devotion was there.
Yeah.
You know, faith was there because I come from a Hindu family.
Yeah.
Also, that was also the background of that, you know.
So this like level of uncompromising devotion towards your mission, to the beautiful ashram and the people that are around you. Can you speak into that devotion that you feel from young age till now? Like where you feel like this has come from? And
like Mahavatar Babaji have said to me, you see, this is from previous life itself. That devotion just doesn't sprout itself like that, and it is a continuation of that. What is going on? So, like I said, God remind each one where they have to be. So my path, what I am giving to the devotees and to the people, you know, it's the love that God have for humanity, and human also have for the divine itself. So that's why you see there's through ashram, through temples, you know, through worship, you know, we come to feeling that love.
Yeah. An interesting part of that dynamic was after that Samadhi experience, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had awareness and like perfect understanding of Kriya practices.
No, that came later on.
Okay.
In 2001, actually, Mahavatar Babaji asked me to teach Kriya. And I said to Mahavatar Babaji, no, I will not teach Kriya. And
it's bold move.
We have that connection. Because I said, no, I'm not, I don't feel like, you know. I said, this time, now, okay. Then 2005, he asked me again. I said, okay, fine. But with one condition, I had one condition put to it, that there's an ancient technique of healing called Om chanting. The yogis and the saints used to do that, and it disappeared. So I said to Mahavatar Babaji, if you allowed me to bring that technique, then I will. And then he said, okay, fine. So because he accepted it, I said, okay, fine, I will start teaching.
Okay.
Kriya.
So your journey since then, I'm just so curious about having these experiences as a young boy, like regardless of how adventurous and expanded your consciousness is, you're still in a 14-year-old body. And from that point, people started to come to you. And I'm just curious about this transition into people perceiving you as a guru.
No, that came later.
Yeah, later.
Much later. You see, like I said, I come from a Hindu background.
Yeah.
And Hindu, what we do very often, we take the priest itself as somebody which is very advanced, which is not really, but okay. They're just doing their work, you know. But in the normal sense, people have that respect towards somebody which is worshipping. So for me, when this happened, like I said, this ash was coming, and this was something wonderful. So people start coming. What they want to see miracle. This is what the mind is about, you know. They want to see miracle. So they start coming. And funny thing is that people will take the ash, they will go home, and they will get healed. One famous thing is about one person who came with cancer. And she was crying, please. My name was Visham at that time. Said, please help me because I have little children. And I said, okay, fine. I will see what I can do. So I said, okay. So onward, her cancer started disappearing. So she had a wonderful life, and her children grow up. And just recently now, after 20 years, her cancer came back. Now, so that people start hearing about it. Like, for example, when I start traveling, I was invited to Kenya by a couple at the age of 15, actually. Their son, eyes they were getting blind, you know, and doctor could not do anything. They did all the surgery and everything that they have to do. It was getting worse and worse. And they called me. I went to Kenya for 3 days. And eventually, the eyes of the son is fine, get better. So like that, things happen.
So now later in your life, when the ashram was eventually built, and I'm just curious, how have you remained to have like the purity and clarity in your heart when the ego is very insidious and it's very slippery, and it can very quickly latch on to the admiration or worship from others and trick us into thinking, you know, making it more about the mind. Have you had any struggle with that? Or
No, I never had any struggle with it.
Really?
Because I don't, you see, I'm not looking for people. You see, I have experienced enough in my life. People today flattered you. You know, people tell you how much they love you. And the same people tomorrow will put you down. So listening to people how they are in front of you, you have not to take it seriously. You know? Because they will give big affirmation. And that I have learned that throughout my life. You see? Yeah. Never to take it personal. Because the moment you take it personal, your ego you look for self-gratification. You look for, yes, you know, people have to give you that devotion. People have to say, bow down to you. No.
What role do you feel the guru plays?
Actually, the guru plays a very big role. You know, without the guru, not possible. You know, because every time I have heard very often, you know, people say, we don't need the guru. Actually, it's not true. We need the guru. Because only those who have reached to that point can lead you to there, you know. There's only somebody who knows how to go out of that forest can lead you out of the forest. Otherwise, it is like a maze. You get stuck into it. And I went recently, we went to San Francisco just for one day. We went to a maze, a mirror maze. It was crazy because everything was moving around. So it is like that, you see. Without having a guide to guide you out of that maze, it's very difficult. So that is the grace of the Sadguru itself.
I think that oftentimes people associate their humanity with the limitations. And I think everything you're speaking to is like, that's equally our humanity, our humanness, the divine and human form. Do you still experience frustration? And
no, it is there. I don't say no, because sometimes I have to be frustrated, for other people to listen. Otherwise, they don't listen.
Yeah.
And especially if you have said 10 times the same thing, still they don't change.
Yeah, I think at least in the West, there's a big perception of like transcending the small self or the ego and not like integrating it and it coming along the journey. And I'm just curious, any thoughts you have about this idea of transcending these, like what people label as negative or bad emotions, but like just finding more integrity within wholeness.
Well, you have to transcend. The easiest way to transcend it is go through it. Very often we try to go sideways, but you don't learn anything.
Yeah.
So when you go through that, you will be able to transcend it. And once you have transcended, it will not come back. But when you try to go sideways, it will come back again. It will come back even more stronger.
Yeah.
So transcending the ego is very important. And transcending the negativity, it's a choice, When, let's say, for example, when you're on the path of spirituality, you're on the path of happiness, you want to be successful in whatever field you want to be. It's a choice, no? So whatever choice you make, you give your thought, you go deeper into that. And once you go to that, if you give attention to negativity, that negativity will drag you down. You can't expect you to flourish and really become great, But when you give attention to your positivity, to be away from that pride and ego, you will rise. You will rise itself, and it become easy.
How important is it for us to find success in the fulfillment internally, to have devotion towards something greater than ourselves in our life?
It's easier, actually, because if you say devotion to oneself is also the egoistic point, Say, okay, you are so great, let's flatter the ego, you are so majestic. Then you sing the glory of I, me, and mine, look how wonderful I am, look how beautiful I am, look how successful I am, And then what? You're still not satisfied because you still want more and more. That is the greediness of life. So when that is transcend, then you start to appreciate what you have.
So carrying that devotion just from the I to the we into the greater whole, like you very much so devoted your life very deeply towards your mission. And I always find there's like the grace comes into the picture as you really devote your life into something greater for the collective. And so I'd just love for you to share a little bit more about the power of devotion and how grace comes into the picture.
When we talk about devotion, we devoted ourselves to God. Like for us, we're devoted to Krishna, to Shrimanarayana. So it's not about us. So we take that credit away from us. We give the credit to God. If it's the same Lord which is inside of us, it's the same Lord which is in everything. But we give that credit. Even just that itself make you feel, yes, more lighter, because you have surrendered yourself to Him. So devotion is very important. Because people have devotion for so many things. Either you have devotion to your personality, devotion to your success into life. Devotion have many ways. So you devotion into the lower spheres or devotion to the higher spheres. So when we are on the spiritual, we give devotion to the higher spheres. We give devotion to God.
And so then what's the balance between effort and grace on the path?
You have to do the effort to attract the grace. Without effort, you don't reach that grace.
And what kind of effort?
Well, your sadhana, your spiritual practices.
And then, so the more that you devote yourself to your sadhana and your spiritual practice, and you put in that effort, this is very important. What is the feeling of grace and how that comes?
On that point, you see, very often I have seen people, whenever they're doing their sadhana, they do it with so intense. They're not relaxed.
Yeah.
You see, they feel that, yes, I have to do that much, I have to do this, They push themselves to the brim of it, then they collapse.
It's like militant.
Yes, they become very militant, and then they don't achieve anything.
Yeah.
Because
that used to be me very much so.
You have to enjoy also, what you're doing.
Yeah.
When we are talking about spirituality, it's not boring at all.
Yeah.
I say, because very often people think that spirituality is boring. No, it is not. It is one of the most joyful and most celebrating life itself. So that is important.
Yeah.
That you celebrate each moment of your life.
Yeah. And so how do you experience grace in the people around you and in your own personal life? Yeah, how does grace arrive? What form does it take? What does it feel like in our life?
Grace comes in many forms. And in the smallest things of your life. I call it the golden moment. If you perceived that each day of your life, there is grace into it, but you have to notice it. See, it's not just that when you fall sick, then you get healed, that is a grace. No, it's not only that. Every day of your life, there's a golden moment. Every day when you help somebody on the street, when you do something good for somebody, this is the grace itself. It allowed you to serve,
I think part of the path of arriving there is not identifying with such a small, limited self of who we are. Much of the path of spirituality, we were a little bit in discussion a couple of days ago at that event, this talk of fearlessness and the path of spirituality. So I'd love for you to speak to fear. How does one arrive at fearlessness in the pursuit of, attaining and serving?
This is fear. This is what controls the mind, actually, because the mind wants to be in control. And the weapon that the mind uses for that is fear, because the mind knows your weakness, and you know your weakness, and you like to look at it. You like to, like I said, glorifying that weakness. More you glorify it, more fear will be there, because fear, it is unknown to what it is, what will be. Very often when I say, people come to me and said, oh, Guruji, I want to change my life, but, the moment you start thinking like that, you can't change anything. So we bring, our own fear, and we make that fear so huge that we can't control it anymore.
I love how you talked about the spiritual journey being the longest and shortest distance of 40 centimeters.
From mind to heart.
Yeah, it really is. It's like the paradoxical nature of it, where it really is from the mind to the heart, and yet
it
takes lives.
Lives and longest way, actually. It is the shortest journey, but people don't want to let go of the mind. They don't want to let go of their ego personality.
I heard once a saying that the longest distance between two paths is a shortcut. And I think a lot of people want to, latch on to the bumper sticker quotes, cliches of spirituality without really feeling it, integrating it in their body. But what do you see as the direct path to living in the heart, really?
Enjoy each moment of your life, because that moment is unique. And if you can't enjoy that, you will never be happy.
So we're all on the spiritual path, I suppose, whether or not we are consciously taking it up. Oftentimes we unconsciously grasp for things that we think are going to bring us happiness or a pleasant experience of life. And the path of spirituality is very much so the conscious process of how to live in the heart and how to realize these things. And for everybody that's listening right now, what do you feel like is another big pitfall on the spiritual path that we haven't covered yet?
Well, spiritual ego.
Yeah.
Because also on the spiritual path, you see, very often, even in spite of knowing everything, the ego is still there, the spiritual pride, So that's what we have to be careful of, Then how to be careful of that is try to become humble.
Yeah.
Embrace your humanity and your humility.
I fully agree. And, if enlightenment is supposed to be something approximating not having an obnoxious ego, having an ego about how much you don't have an ego is one of the most unfortunate realities, and it's sad to experience. And I've definitely encountered that, where you have an expanded sense of awareness, or you maybe develop a little bit spiritually, and then the ego makes you feel superior.
You're very important.
Yeah.
But I have met many people like that. You see, they borrowed book knowledge,
right? Yeah.
And through book knowledge, they think that spirituality is about experience.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you are on the spirituality, you have not experienced what you know. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
They're still on the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Experience is important. Often, especially on the path of devotion, there's some path who says, yes, knowledge is important. You have to have knowledge, and then you can have experience. And when I look at especially I can talk for my devotee, I look at my devotee, it's opposite. They have that experience first, then they get to know about it, they have the knowledge of it. Because once you have had a knowledge and want to experience that, the mind is still there, Then you want to create that experience with your mind, then the ego is still playing there. You see, the ego will make you think that, yeah, you are very special. You're a spiritual person. And you can see that in the world itself, people which is very knowledgeable. They have great knowledge about all the scriptures, but at the same time, they lack humility inside of them. This knowledge who have to help them to liberate actually trap them into their own egoistic nature.
I agree totally. I think it's so important to have teachers and just friends who can keep us in check and make sure that we still remain humble. And whenever gaining knowledge, it's kind of an inevitable, I think, process for most people that we lose our path, we lose our way a little bit, and then we come back into the center. And
it's normal sometimes to lose it.
Yeah.
Like when you have to shoot an arrow, you have to pull it behind. Sometimes it's good to take some step behind and then move forward with a different strength.
Yeah, I was just doing a podcast with somebody, Dr. Gilbert, and he mentioned this phrase he heard of, sometimes I don't know where the line is until I step over it,
Mm-hmm.
And that process of losing your way.
You know it before,
Yeah.
you know it after,
Uh-huh.
but when it's happening, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel there's an overarching intention that consciousness and life has in and of itself? Because we have our own intention of what we want in life, but consciousness itself is seemingly, almost feels like it's divinely designing and architecting experience so that we may come to know ourselves and to realize in many ways.
Actually, yes. You see, your consciousness have its own dharma. That's why I said you are here. It's not random. And your consciousness will make it for sure, giving you experience, but will bring you where the expansion of that awareness can happen. That's why you see very often people search. Now, you start your searching, but yet you don't feel, yes, this is my way, this is my path, until you find what you're really looking for.
So much of that path, I feel, is a process of aligning our will with the divine will. And that's much so what you spoke to about living in your dharma. What is dharma, and how can we find it to live it in our life?
Well, there's a universal dharma
Sure.
as a human being, that is to love. That is on the path of bhakti and the path of devotion. That is the dharma of your soul itself, to come to that blissful state of love. This is a universal dharma. And of course, in how to achieve to that, everybody have their own dharma in a unique way to approach that.
So for those that are struggling to find like their purpose, their dharma, finding meaning in the way that they're showing up in the planet, we all desire that, but a lot of people find frustration in not having it.
Yeah, well, look, never lose hope. Keep searching. Yeah. Keep longing for that, because it will happen.
Yeah.
Firstly, for you to have the frustration that you have not yet found your dharma, it's a good sign. Yeah. It's not bad. That means that, yes, there is something greater. You know that you're destined for something better.
Yeah, it feels like not knowing our path is a part of the process of knowing our path. Yeah.
Yes, it is a process.
Yeah. So when you look at karma, bhakta, and jnana yoga, why do you think certain, out of those three, why does someone get attracted to one of them instead of the other? And maybe you could also share what each of them are.
No, each person, like I said, have their own path, you see. Yeah. Like we are some people which is drawn towards karma yoga, for example. For them, they feel good in serving. They will go out serving, but you have to understand the nature of service. Even that, you can grow spiritually into that. There's many saints who have attained the realization just by service. So, but you have to understand the true nature of service. Like I would say, service to mankind is service to God. Narayan Seva, Madhav Seva, Madhav Seva. Manav Seva, Madhav Seva. Sorry, I said it. Mm-hmm. So, service to mankind is service to Narayana. Mm. So, having that deep inside that my service is towards the divine, we're serving. So, for some people, that is easy. Because, you go, service is also not just say, okay, I write a check and I sign it, I'm serving. No, go and be with the people. That is karma yoga, Mm. And then you have some people who, for them, is through bhakti, devotion. For them, they serve also through an energetic point of view. Because when you're worshipping, it generates a certain energy. It's not only for yourself, that energy expands. The expansion of that energy also help the surrounding, help nature, help Mother Earth, And then you have jnana yoga, that those who are very knowledgeable, And they're also serving in a way, because without knowledge, we'll not be here. All the great sages and saints for antiquity, they have written length on scriptures and so on, because that was needed.
Yeah, I've personally found most resonance with individuals like Krishnamurti and Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and the path of jnana yoga. And I feel like that's very much so in alignment with this podcast. And my intention here is to share this knowledge in a way that it invites us back to that self-remembrance. And so, you think it's just depending on someone's temperament, personality, get drawn to a certain sect path?
Well, depend also on the level of spirituality where you stand. That you will be drawn towards that, Mm-hmm. And like you said, all this teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj and then Krishnamurti and all, they were very finding of who you are, like Ramana Maharishi also, which is important, on the path itself. Without knowing who you are, firstly, you can't help somebody else to know themselves. Huh?
So then bhakti, there's a different quality in which someone on that path carries within their heart, I feel like.
Actually, it's true, Bhakti have a sweetness in it, which for me personally, I have seen all other paths also. But the path of devotion have a different sweetness, that sweetness of relationship with Bhagwan, relationship with God. It's amazing. I say, okay, fine. I can't reach to that level, but I know you are there, No matter what, I'm not alone, because on the path of self has a knowing, it's a path of often the loneliness, that I have to journey to that, I have to do that. No. But on the path of bhakti, say no. Bhagavan said, okay, fine, I am with you. This is the beauty. That's what Krishna remind Arjun. I say, okay, fine. You see, you do your duty on this battlefield. You can't run away. In the Mahabharata and the war field, when Arjun was, you saw in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he was very, confused and want to run away, don't want to fight or want to do. No, Krishna remind him. But when it comes to duty, you should never put your personal emotion into it. So it's beautiful to say without that guidance from the Sadguru, from Lord Krishna himself, Arjun would not be there. So there is this sweetness of a relationship, that it is there, that, okay, you do your duty, do your dharma. You have commit yourself, do it, but do it selflessly. Do it without any selfish motive behind. You don't want to have all this, is fine. But that is the nature of serving.
So for those that are listening, that they can feel into karma yoga being through our action and non-attachment to circumstance, we can purify ourselves and go on that path, or the path of knowledge with jnana yoga, or bhakti, the path of devotion, and infusing it with kriya yoga, like supporting us on our path regardless. Is there anything that you could share as to helping people clarify like what is going to serve them most in which path?
Well, you see, each path, like I said, have a uniqueness in it. And what will serve the most in each path is the dedication that they have. I say, if you are dedicated to your path and try to do it with wholeheartedly, you will grow into that.
Why do you feel that? Like, could you share a little bit about Bhakti Marga and why you feel there's been such a beautiful, I guess, fragrance of this devotional path all around you, and that people commit to?
Like I said, you see, I have taken Mahavatar Babaji's grace and through different grace of the acharyas also, And the path of bhakti, like I said, have a sweetness, and that which you don't find in any other path. And that's what is lacking nowadays for me. That's why when Mahavatar Babaji said to teach Kriya, I said, no. I say, I want also bhakti into it. I want to spread that devotion also, because that's what it is needed in this time. But devotion is so wrongly understood, because often we see people say, oh, okay, that one is very devotion, they're doing ritual, all this stuff, it's very downgraded. If you understand what is behind all this, this is where knowledge also is important. So if you understand what lies behind that, you will see that will elevate you.
One other thing I do want to touch on is, I think this is all very helpful for people. The romantic relationships that we carry and find in partnership with other people can be an immense source of suffering, pain, but also awakening and sharing and companionship on the journey in the path. So yeah, what do you feel, if we so choose, romantic partnerships can help and serve on the path of spirituality?
Well, love is love, Love start firstly, like I was telling in the thing, it start always with relating to people. So that's what it is, the basic of relationship. And our relationships start long. The moment we come out of the mother, we are put on the chest of our mother to feel that warmness, that relationship. So we are all constantly into that.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel most people are getting wrong in how they approach relationships in that dynamic?
You see, when people approach relationship, they expect from each another too much. And when they start expecting, this is where problems start arising. Then they start going into the drama. That yes, we start lovely. People come together, they live together. As long as they're dating each other, it's wonderful. You have seen it, But the moment they move together, this is where the problems start.
Yeah. Chaos ensues.
Yes, because then you fight. You have to. You're faced with the reality of the person. Because as long as you're far away from the person, you can love each other. But when you come there, you have the challenge. Mm-hmm. So are you ready to accept the challenge or not? But this is also the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think so many of us struggle in that acceptance of somebody, because we often have those expectations and want things done a certain way, and that creates friction and resistance in the relationship. And so, yeah, anything else you want to share about the power of acceptance in somebody?
When you come together in a relationship, you should know what brings you together. Mm-hmm. That sharing together, to learn from each other, to support each other, not only to trash each other.
Yeah. Wonderful. Just in closing here, is there anything else on your heart that you want to share with the audience today that you feel would be supportive for them?
What I would like to share with everybody is just be yourself. Know that God loves you the way you are, the way He have created you. And grow with that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming here today and the time.
Thank you.
And you haven't been in LA since 7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's been quite some time. So I'm glad this synchronistically aligned and worked to come here.
Oh, thank you. Because you sent a message, and they said you will be there in that function.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. So good. And just in kind of closing, is there anything else you want to share about what you have going on in the world and what the path of what's to come over you feel the next decade for Bhakti Marga, what you're creating, anything you want to share?
Well, like at the beginning I said, my aim is to spread the love of God, and to spread this love to everybody. So that's what we carry and share it to everybody.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Know Thyself podcast. Please let us know this episode in particular has impacted you. And until next time, be well.